Hello everyone, this is Jshell. I'm a PhD student from IIT Tirupati, and this is the re-recording video for programming in Java course from NPTEL. This live interaction session happened on 30th of Jan 2024. We recorded that video as well, but due to some issues in the recording, we are only able to get the audio correctly and not the video. So this is an attempt to rectify it, and in this session we will cover almost all the points that we have covered during at that point of time. Okay, so let's start with it. Starting with Java. Okay, so as Java is a programming language, why should you learn it, right? So before getting started, I'm trying to give a motivation around for you people, such that you should not feel like Java is still an old programming language. Will you get jobs here or not? So let's look into it. So for that, we look at some data. So here, so it's a GitHub. What we are looking for October's survey. That's an annual survey done by GitHub. GitHub is an open source platform where you can collaborate with someone and uh, write code with them, or make your own repositories out there, create your own softwares. So all this thing for that data, GitHub is a pretty popular platform. So in this almost 100 millions of developers has been there as of 2024, more than that. So here they annually release some top programming languages, some other technologies that is happening, right? So like there's an interesting statement that one has made, like after nearly 30 years of Java, you might expect the language to be showing some sign of wear and tear, but nothing could be farther from the truth. It's a 30-year-old language, right? And similarly, the top language used in 2022, 2023 data is yet to come with respect to it, but if we can see from last almost 10 years, like starting from 2014, from where the survey has started, Java is always in top 3 languages, because the systems that had been made from since 2090s and early 2010s and all that, they have become quite mature and they have used Java extensively in their system. And because of its secure, safe um, uh, features from the Java, it has been still highly used currently in the current ecosystem, right? And there are a lot of interesting things are there. You can check this out about Octoverse. You will get to know about more different kind of languages. At the same time, you can read about, like, this is a article from the README project, like, don't call it comeback, why is Java still a champ. So these are kind of motivating things, that Java is still being extensively in the software industry, and it's not going to go anywhere no time soon, right? It is going to be, eventually it will become much and much better over the period of time. Followed by there's another Stack Overflow. So if you start coding and you get some error, one of the most popular question and answer website is Stack Overflow. Here you'll try to find an answer for any issue. So they also perform a multiple surveys with respect to it, and one of the popular uh, language still around in top 10 will you can find is just Java. Java is still according to the 87,000 respondent, they said like 30% still use Java, which is quite high in number, right? So that's quite encouraging with respect to it. Apart from being, Java has a lot of improvement over the years, and if we start looking at it, so you can look from here. Oracle is now the owner of the Java. Java was earlier open source. It's still open source, but it is being taken care by the company called Oracle. Currently, the long-term support, that means the support given to a Java or Java versions, has been for long-term, that is for 10 years, 15 years, have been available, and mostly people using Java 21.17. So in this course, we will going to use Java 17 as of now, and even if you have JDK's version or Java version less than that, that is still fine, because it's a beginner course, and most of the programming construct or the concept that you're going to see will be applicable even if you're using old sorry old Java versions as well. So there's not a problem about it. Okay. After being said, if you don't have Java installed in your system, for that, if you want to check that whether Java installed already in your system or not, so what you can do is you go to a terminal. Terminal is called for Mac OS and the Linux systems, and you might have heard of command prompt. So in Windows, so if you just type Java hyphen hyphen version, it will tell you that what current version is Java version it has been installed or not. If it is not showing something, that means the Java has not been installed. For me, I have installed Java 17 as of now. Okay, and I'm going to use this. If you have less than Java 17, that is perfectly fine. You can go ahead with that. Okay, coming back to it, if you want to install, go to the Oracle website, type Oracle Java, and then based on whatever operating system that you are using currently on your system, there you can see that one of multiple packages are there. Different one, if you have an Intel system, then you have x64, you have to look at for x64. If you have ARM related microprocessor, then you have to look at for ARM 64. Okay, so for all this time, the download archive is there, and then you can, a lot of installation instructions are there, you can find on YouTube and multiple places. Okay, that being said, so this is the installation all. I'm not covering those things because it is individual to individual. So I would encourage you to, if you don't have anything and no Java installed in your system, please look out, refer to some articles and YouTube videos. Okay. Now another thing, if you don't want to download the Java also in your system, there's another way you can use that. That is online Java compiler. Okay, so there are multiple online Java compiler where you can write and test your code. Since the beginning programming course for Java, I think online Java compiler will work for you just fine for at least a month or two. But a moment will come where you might have to write multiple Java files for a program, and all. At that point in time, having an IDE is much better. It's much recommended over the period of time. Okay, so right now you can try simple basic Java practice. If you want to do simple Java practice, you don't have to install anything. You just write down your code here in this main.java, run it, you will get an output to see how it is working. Okay, that being said, for Java IDEs, I personally use IntelliJ. But people use Eclipse, NetBeans, BlueJ, and other thing. That is totally fine. You can go ahead with that. Not much difference in the usage. It's actually help you over the period of time to how to be more efficient while coding, right? IDEs for that purposes. Okay, so we have seen that Java is pretty much relevant in current times. Also, with multiple survey, you have seen from where you can download your Java. Okay, and or if you don't want to install Java in your system, then you can use online Java compiler with respect to it. So this is all fine, and let's start now from the basics of Java. And then we will look into it, what are the things that we have to look into. Okay, uh, so for this session, what we are going to do is we will look into something called a Java shell tool. So a Java shell tool is something, once you have installed Java into your system, then only you can use it. Okay, so in this case, I have already installed Java into my system, and if I have to start running a Jshell tool, I just need to write Jshell in my terminal. I am using terminal for Mac OS and Linux. For Windows, it will be command prompt. And once you enter Jshell, it will load in the background and will open. So welcome to the Jshell version. You have the Java version 17.0.10 and all those stuff. So let's discuss what is Jshell first, and then whatever is going to happen in this session, I'm going to run that in a Jshell itself. Okay, so Jshell is a Java shell tool. It is for people who are very beginners and never tried coding, and before they get hand dirty while using some editors, programming editors like or IDEs, integrated development tools, they can try it out to get some confidence to use these Java shells. And the best part of this Java shell is the moment you write something, it will give you output statement wise. Okay, so it's very the feedback is very fast that whether you're writing the correct code or not, and it is much easier and much it provides confidence to our developers who just beginning as aspect of code. Okay, so nothing beats learning from your own mistakes, so keep trying a lot of mistake while you're coding in Jshell or any IDE. So you have to figure out why that particular line of code is not working, right? It try to emulate a real world problem solving, and so you will making all kind of typos, errors, because Java is a kind of strict language, so you have to write a lot of long statement to print certain things, and lot of what you say, a lot of formalism is present in this currently. So we will talk about that as we go through the course. Okay, so while I'm typing certain things, just observe that how I'm writing the variable names. Okay, how I'm writing where I'm putting the stresses upon the semicolon, or how I'm writing the functions. So look into that, and if you do encounter a mistake while watching this video, just pause the video and try to solve it on your own. Okay, there's a lot of sources out there in Java. When you got an error and this is not something I've covered in this, you can look out. Most probably you will get an answer for that. Okay, so let's start with the basic Java units. Java units with the basic components. So I have covered that in second session also, but let's me give again an example. That suppose you have a page of text, right? The page of text is considered as an English. Consider that page of text as a code. Now a page of text consists of multiple paragraphs, right? And each paragraph consists of each of multiple sentence, and multiple sentence consist of individual words, right? So there's a hierarchy into that. So when we talk about sentences in this case of in normal text, that is a statement in Java. Okay, so it can include one or more expressions here are basically the words what we're talking about. So let's start with the basic the most common statement that we start off with any programming language, that is hello world. So let's see how we can write this thing in Jshell. So I have already opened the Jshell. If you want to know more about Jshell, first of all, just look at this help intro part, which I'm highlighting with my cursor. So if you just write help intro, you will get down that what it tells. So it tells what Jshell is a tool that allows you to execute Java code, getting immediate results, right? So you will get immediate results. So that's the highlighting part of it. Okay, you can define a Java definition, that is you can write a variable, method, class, etc. into this. It will work pretty much fine. You can use Java expressions. Java expressions are like x plus x. I can even use import statement, but I'm not going to use here just for it, because it's just for getting hands-on for the people who just starting out with Java, right? So we will start off with first thing that we have seen here, that is system.out print hello. So let's write it down, that part. So if I have to print something, I have to write system.out.print, and I have to put parentheses and double quotes, and then I have to write hello world, and I have to put semicolon. Okay, so let's discuss one thing about here. System.out.print is a way through which you can print any statement that you want to look at as an output, right? If I wrote this statement and just press enter, it will just give me the hello world as an output, and this is the word this is the thing that we wanted as an output. Okay, every statement will be ended with a semicolon. Okay, that is by default, that's a rule in Java, that you have, if you're writing a statement, you have to end it with semicolon, except the exceptions are if and else condition. How you write it, we will go over the period of time, right? Another thing is that if you're printing anything, you have to put those things in double quotes. Okay, so let's see what happens if you don't write any message that you want to print in double quotes. So I write system.out.print, and I put semicolon. If I just write in hello world, okay, So I'll just if you this something called as comment. Comment is something which will not be taken look by the Java compiler. It will just ignore that. The comments are for us to understand what we are doing. So here we are using, I just write a comment that we are using single quotes, okay, and if I just try to print, what is giving me is an error called enclosed character literal. Okay, what does it mean? The error means, so in Java it's very particular about what should come within a single quote and what should come within the double quotes. Okay, so I'm just so what exactly is happening here is double quotes for Java, it thinks that it is a string, and if it is single quote, it is called as it considered as a character. Okay, so there's no particular uh, so there's a particular meaning for double quotes and single quote here, and since we are trying to print a hello world, it's a combination of character, it's a mix of characters, so that's why it becomes a string. But if you want, if I okay, so let's write it down like system.out.print, and I just write a, because it's a character. A character is a single letter, right? Whether it will work or not, it will work. It will also print. But if you want to have more than one character, in this case, which will become string, here it will not work. It will still give me an enclosed character literal because it wants me to uh, put quotes in after a, single quotes after a. Okay. Another thing about Jshell is I don't have to type the code multiple times if I want to change something. Like what I have done is here, that instead of system, so I just put the up arrow, okay, and then look at the earlier command that I have wrote in the Jshell. Okay, so up arrow, down arrow, I can use it to revisit some of the statements that I have written. So this whole, the one I am highlighting right now, is considered as a one statement, okay, in Java. Now let's try to fix this. If I instead of single quotes, if I give double quotes, it will work pretty much fine. Okay, so what we have typed about that system.out.print hello world, it is to print some information. It's just syntax. It's a proper the way we have written this the structure of that statement. The structure is called it as syntax. Okay, that uh, let me use the, yeah, so system.out.print, then you have a parenthesis dot colon. This is the structure in which you have to write to print something, right? So this is something we call as a syntax provided by the Java language. And the your main thing while programming while for this course is to learn this syntax, and over the period of time while you're learning the syntax, also develop your mind to how to code given a problem statement. Okay, because that's how the coding is. They will ask you to execute something. For that, the whatever the problem statement is, you have to write that as a code. So that writing part of the code is something uh, within the context of syntax, is something you have to learn over the period of this course. Okay, so when we say the text hello world in the double quotes, effectively we're telling the Java to print out the words as we have specified them in the quotes. Okay. Uh, Also, I would recommend you to play with this Jshell. Like I have told you, I have shown only few commands. We will, for this whole session, I will tell you what are the things you can do with Jshell. But I would encourage you to play with it, try with multiple errors, uh, try it out whether it will work or not. Then try to find why it is working or not. That's the whole point of Jshell. That is to provide you safe place to test code segments. Okay, and once you are bored with or tired with the Jshell, and you can just put an slash exit or slash ex, and it will get out of the shell. Okay, so like what kind of things you can play it out? Like earlier when you put this thing, they said enclosed characters. So if I put like this, will it work? It will not work. Okay, so that is something that we need to look at. Also, let's suppose in system.out.print, if I write hello plus world, if I write this, this will also print me a hello world. So what is exactly happening here? What happening is I provide one string called hello, then this plus is considered as a concatenation. That means it is whatever the next string will be in this case. In this case, the space world, even space is considered as a character here. So space world, it will try to add the space world to the hello. Okay, so and that's how the hello world will become a whole string. So whether I write like this or whether I write like this, the simple hello world, it will work pretty much fine. So the difference is only in the fact that here plus is acting as a string concatenation. That is a term, that is, it is adding the another string to the first string. Okay, so this will work. Now uh, so also if you want to try something else, if you want to try what are the things we can try. Let's say if you don't put quotes here, which is a common thing, it will give you unclosed string literal. If you don't put if you put the close thing but you forget about the semicolon, if you enter this, it is still working fine. It will work pretty fine in Jshell maybe, but if it is an IDE, it will not work. So so that is one thing you have to take care of. Okay, now few things about starting out. So we have seen how to print a hello world, and we have seen few other aspects about JShells and how to try it out multiple things in JShells, right? Let's go a little deep with respect to it and start with the basic words of a text or the basic blocks of a Java code, right? There it's called as keyword. Okay, so keyword are is any number of is one number, any number, one of a number of reserved words that have predefined meanings in syntax in Java language, right? And variables are stored to store information in our knowledge. So let's look into it, like what does it actually mean. Okay, so let me define something like this. Okay, it's not going to clear the screen, it's fine. So let's say int my first number equal to 5. Okay, so let me try to break down first enter this and you will see that my first number is 5, right? Now let's go so let's try to deconstruct what this whole statement means. Okay, so here if I want to if I have to write much more clearly visibly to everyone, I will use something called as curly braces. I will tell you about curly braces later, but here int my first number equal to 5, right? uh, so here int is a keyword, it has its special meaning. Okay, then my first number is a variable. Okay, then my first number equal to 5 is an expression. Okay, because I am assigning a value called 5, a literal called 5 to the my first number variable, so that is an expression. And then again the whole int my first number equal to 5 is will be called as a statement. Okay, a statement in Java. Another thing I want to add here, if you observe that the way I'm writing the variable name, okay, that is my first number, right? So it follows something called as lower camel case. That means if if it is a variable or method, what you have to write the first letter, the first word, like you it in Java it's pretty common that if you're defining a method of a variable, you will have 2-3 words associated with it. So but and you can't have space in between the words because it's a variable name, right? So what you can do, you so you can write that my first number in multiple number of ways, right? But there's a kind of styling guide that they have given. It's not compulsory, but it's preferable if you're starting out with Java to start having the way it's written, right? So lower camel case tells about that my first word, in this case the first character of that should be a lowercase. Okay, then the second word, in this case the first, here the first letter should be capital, and the another, if you have another word, in this case that is number, the first letter should be capital. Okay, so this is something you may ignore it right now, right off now, but it's highly recommended that you follow this kind of standards, because this person, if you go to to some industry to work upon Java, and if there's a Java developer, they know about this syntax and they take it for a granted that these things something you should know. So please keep that in mind. Okay, and then okay. Uh, yes, so this is some, so what I did is, if I have to write multiple lines of code, right? If I write everything in a single line, it will work. But for you to have a better understanding, I need to write multiple lines. So in this case, the whole example of int and deconstructing this whole statement, I require multiple lines to tell it, right? So for this, I have used something called as curly braces. So it is called as code block. So the whole thing within curly braces is considered as a code block. So let me write as um, I think I did something wrong, but that's okay. Uh, let me first delete those things. Okay, so anything written inside curly braces are called as code blocks. Okay, here you can write multiple statements, multiple expressions into that. So that's why that is for accommodate that we are writing. Okay. Uh, yes, now this is working pretty much fine. Okay, so this is what we have written. The whole statement here is code block in this case. Okay, so we have seen a first statement and how to define it. So int is a keyword, my first number is variable, my first number equal to find an expression, and you learn about the lower camel case. But what are the other kind of what do you say, um, keywords that we are looking into, right? So let's look into that first. Uh, so if you search about Java keywords, okay, so in total I think there are 51, most probably 51 or 40 plus keywords are there, and everything that you can see on the screen I am highlighting right now, they are the keywords. They have a special meaning associated with it. Okay, apart from this, some other keywords like const, goto are reserved even though they are not currently used. True, false, null might seem like keyword, but they are actually literals. um, but you can't use them for identifiers. So there are multiple keywords are there which have this own purpose defined in the Java, and we should not use it in the place of a method name or a variable name, kind of like that. Okay, so over the period of time we will cover each of these keywords as we go ahead in the course, right? But today we will look at the basic data types, and that is int, character, floats, double, and all. So we'll start looking into that. Okay. Um, so we have looked at the keywords, variables. Now what we have seen here is my first number equal to 5, right? What does it means? It is declaring that I have a variable named my first number, and I'm assigning a value of 5. This is called as declaration statement. Okay, a declaration statement is used to define a variable by indicating data type and the name, then optionally set the variable to a specific value. So that statement that we have written here, this is called a declaration statement. Okay, and this is optional that you have to specify a value. If you don't have a value or specify value, that is also fine. Okay, an expression is a coding construct that evaluates to a single value. Okay, so here the coding the expression that we talk about is my first number equal to 5. That means it's an expression that is I am providing a value 5 to a particular variable, right? An expression can be set of expressions or multiple set of expression, or it can be one expression only, but the main constraint it should be that it should evaluate to a single value only. Okay, it should provide me one single value. Okay, so so that means if I write my first number here as a in the Jshell and just enter it, it should give me the value of 5. Okay, uh, so this is the expression that we have evaluated, and it is giving me a particular that my first number equal to 5 give me a particular value for this variable I have defined. Okay, now usually okay, so there's another thing that that is different from the Jshell and ID, but I want you to explicitly let you know that if you want and ideally in a Java, in a IDE or any other Java text editor, you can't redeclare a variable. Okay, but in Jshell you can do that. So what do I mean by it? So if I again write my first number equal to 100 and end my first number equal to 60, these are working fine. This whole two statements that I have written just now, they are working pretty much fine, right? But if you write that in actual IDE, it will not work. Reason is I'm redeclaring the same variable called as my first number. Even though I'm changing value is fine, right? Even if I just write it as my first number equal to 80, it should work fine. But here what is the difference between this statement and the above statement is that int my first number and int my first number, here I am declaring declaring the variable again. So in Jshell, since it's more interactive in nature, that's why it is allowed to do that, but in general it doesn't allow. Okay, so that is one thing I need to keep that in mind. Okay, for now just follow along that that declaring a variable for second subsequent time is not usually is not allowed. Okay, and when we switch to full editor, I may show that this thing again, or you can try it on your own as well. Okay, but you can assign a value to a variable multiple times in Java. Okay, so that is possible, and that you will eventually have to do, because coding is much more about the how you use variables, multiple algorithms where you manipulate with the variable values over the period of time, right? So that is allowed, but normally you can't declare a variable. That means you can't declare the name of the same variable with the same data type. Okay, that will give me an error. Okay, not even same any data type. So even if right now float my number, my first number is equal to 100 dot this, yeah, 9, anything. So this will okay, okay, I will come to float as well. But if even if I have my first number as a variable here, and which is same as the int variable in this case, ideally it will give me an error in the editor, but not here. Okay, that is something I need to I'm stressing upon much right now, because only because we are doing Jshell only for this session. Okay, uh, now let's talk about operators. Okay, so once you have variables, okay, now you have operators. Operator is something which from which you can perform certain operation. Okay, that is called as operators. And addition, subtraction, division, multiplication are the common ones that everyone is familiar with, right? It's like a basically math operator that we are talking about. So let's write it down. So for example, I'm redeclaring that as an int right now. So my first number is equal to 10. Sorry, I haven't put wrong. Yeah, my first number is equal to 10, right? So if I want to use some operator, I will just write my first number is equal to 10 plus 5. It will work. It will work, and it will give me the result as 15, right? So what is happening here? The plus is an operator. It requires two operands. This 10 and 5 are operand here. It can be literal value, numeric value, or it can be any variable also. Okay, so that will also work as a find. Okay, so that is one thing. Again, if you want to add 10 divided by 5, it will give me 2. This is also fine. Okay, now let's write this expression like my first number equal to 10 plus 5 plus 2 into 10. Let's write that. So my first number is equal to 10 plus 5 plus 2 into 10, right? So it is giving me an output 35. Now I want to observe few things here. Okay, we have used something of parenthesis to calculate certain two different kind of expressions here. 10 plus 5 is one expression, 2 into 20 is one expression, whatever the outputs coming from 2 into 10 and 10 plus 5, again they will use output that is here 15 plus 20, that will be 15 plus 20 will become third expression, right? So here three expressions are being used, and we are using parenthesis for there. That is to tell the Java that 10 plus 5 plus 2 into 10 has to deal with separately. Okay, it is the concept of word mask, like how we are seen in maths. Here also it's coming, right? The expression in brackets will be evaluated first, followed by anything outside the brackets, right? So same concept here as well, right? So again, if I don't write 10 plus 5 plus 2 into 10, if I don't provide any brackets, even though it's giving me same answer, let me do it in some other way. So if I write 10 into 5 plus 2 into 10 kind of thing, okay, so here the uh, problem of operator precedence we can get, that is which operator precedence, like which function I should do first. Shall I do addition first, or shall I do in multiplication first? That is something the Java compiler has to know. So usually to resolve such kind of thing, operator precedence has been given. That means uh, in this case the operator multiplication is much higher than plus. So that means if two operators are there in an expression, at that point of time it will first evaluate the uh, operator operands of the operator of multiplication first, that is 10 into 5 and 2 plus 10 and 2 into 10, and then it will do plus, same as a maths. And we have covered this aspect of operator precedence much more detail in the second session as well. Okay, okay, now let's do let's um, include few more variable as well. So let me write int my second number. So let me give some value as 12, and int my third number, which I'll give it as 6, right? And let's say if now I have this, now if I want to add total, int my total equal to um, my first number plus my second number plus my third number. Okay, so it will give me an output. Now what we have seen here is, till now we are using numbers directly to solve a particular expression, or in this case statement, but here we have first time we have started using variable names. So whatever is present, that is earlier it was my first number was 35, my second number was 12, third number was 6. So we are not passing this value, we're just passing the variable name and it will calculate it automatically. Similarly, if I want to write my third number is equal to my first number into 2. So this is also fine, that is I can use a literal as well as variable at that same in the same expression. That will work pretty much fine. Okay, let's see what else is there. Okay, so this is something we have done. So a challenge was there, you can try it out later also. Again, that's what we have done. Create a one variable named my second number, which is an int with a value 12. Another variable called my third number, also type in with a value 6 and add it to my total. Okay, now this is another challenge. First create, so let's try it out. First create a new variable and call it like my last one. The data type should be int. It should be set to the value of 100 minus or less than the value in the my total variable which we have just talked about in previous course segment. So we have total was my total here, that is something we are talking about here, and then print out the value variable on the line after you declare it. Okay, so let's look into it. So first it is telling that I should create a variable called last one, and it should have data, it should have a data type of int. Okay, so let's create it. So int my last one, I've declared this thing, and it is telling me that it should be set to the value of 1000 minus the value of my total. So let's write out my total. I've already calculated right now. This is a statement that I'm highlighting right now in the shell. So let's write it out. So my last one equal to 1000 minus my total. Okay, now I've got this value as 947. I need to print it out because Jshell it print out every variable value, but I have to print it out as well because it has been explicitly asked that print out the value my last variable on the line after you declare it. So let's write out system dot out dot print, and I just need to write my last one. It will give me the output as 947. Okay, nice, awesome. So we have done this, and if you want to type, or we have writing everything what we are writing as line by line, that is after every line we are printing this, but you don't want this in intermediate output. So how you can write it? Like using code blocks. So you have to start with the opening curly braces. Again you write it as like my last one equal to 1000 minus my total, and the system dot out dot print ln is also fine. Print ln is also another way to write it out. So my last one, and I will use closing curly braces, and it will not show me intermediate output here. It will directly show me this is what I am printing here, system dot out dot print, right? So it is much more cleaner way to write the code in the Jshell. Okay, few more things. Java is very case sensitive language. So what do we mean by it? So here the examples are given. This includes not only keywords, language name, but variable names and data type as well. So if the we have defined my last one as a variable name, right? So the my last one, even though sounding correct, but if I change my m just by capital M, right? That is here is written as my last one, it will be different. So for example, my last one right now, the value of my last one is 947. So if I just try to print it out, let's say system dot out dot print, and I'm instead of small m, I'm getting capital M, my last one. It will give me an error that it is the variable is not found. Okay. Another thing we can do, let's say int my last one, even though it's declared, see its value is 0. Okay, here because it is treating, because the my m is capital, it is different from the my last one that we have done, which has value of 947. right? So Java is very case sensitive in this case. That is, it doesn't only look at the word meaning, it just look at the how it is written as well, right? Similarly, another example is given here is, instead of int, if I write int as, I usually write int like in smaller case, right, lower case. But if I write int my uh, last one, so it will give me a replace variable my last one. However, it cannot be referenced until class int is declared. Okay, so what it's happening is, um, if I just write as my last one, it will work fine. But if I write capital int, it is not understanding that what this int is. So even if I write int my second last one, again the same error because it cannot reference class int as declared. Okay, so it doesn't know what this capital int means. It only knows the smaller letter int, right? So that is something Java is very much particular about it. So you have to be very careful when you're writing the variable names, because int and all, it is syntactical error, it will find it out. But if you're trying to refer a variable in your code, and you just even you have one variable name here and there, either lowercase or capital case, it might give you either an error, or it might store that value store some new value into the some other variable, not the one in which you intended to be. Okay, so let's start with Java primitive type. Now we have talked about expressions, we have talked about statements, case sensitive, printing, right? So let's start about the basic types. That is, what kind of data you can use inside a Java, right? For that, it is called as primitive type. These are most basic type, and they are divided into 4 categories. Okay, first is whole numbers. Whole numbers means that the value from 0 to sorry uh, the integers, all the integer, all the whole numbers, minus value, plus value, without decimal points, they are considered as whole numbers. Real numbers are float and double, that is the values with decimal points are the float numbers. Single character is car, and boolean value, that means boolean value has only two values, that is either true or false, okay, or 0 or 1, right? Only two variables you can, two values you can store in a boolean value. Okay, another interesting thing that you might have noticed here is we haven't added string. String here acts as a class, and we will talk much detail about string in the upcoming sessions. But string is something that it's not considered as a data type. Even though we use string as a data type, but it's not considered as a primitive data type. Okay, another second point here is, here if you can see that I have bold, int and double, right? So what does it mean here is, by default, if you give me a number, right, a number without decimal or with decimal, it will consider a certain, it will consider it as a certain value, it will consider into certain data type. By default, Java considered any little numerical is as int, and any real number with that is a floating point or decimal as double. Okay, so by default it considered like that. Okay, so I have already showed that how to declare a variable with int. Well, let's see some other aspect of it as well. Okay, so now we will start with discussing some of the primitive data type as well. Now, an interesting part of it is, since it's a primitive data type, okay, it has some wrapper classes which tells about those primitive data type. So what are these? That we will look into it, but just consider that it provides us little bit more functionalities to know that what is the range of values that can be stored in a particular primitive data type, be it byte, short, char, int, long, float, double, boolean, kind of like that. So for that, they have defined in certain a wrap called as wrapper class. Okay, now you don't go by name, it's just a simple class where it try to define multiple aspect of a particular primitive data type. So we will start, let's start using it. Maybe you can assign it much better. Only difference here in wrapper class for all the one is that for all the primitive types, the first capital is B is capital, okay, except character and int, where char is written as whole character, and int is considered as whole as a whole integer, right? Apart from that, everyone is same as it is, only the first letter is capital for a wrapper class. So let's write it out. So if I want to know that if I'm using a int data type and I want to know till which value my till which minimum value my integer value can store a number. So for that I will use a wrapper class called integer for it, and I will just write min value. So what it does is, in the wrapper class there is called integer. Um, the called integer, I'm asking for a min value variable which stores that what is the minimum value I can store with. Okay, so it comes down to 2 billion or 2 billion, I think 2 billion or 147,483,648, kind of like that, right? Similarly, if I want to write as, I want to know what is the maximum value till it can store. So integer and max value, if I just enter it, it'll same range, 2,147,48,483,647, kind of like that. Okay, now if you want to print these values here, let's try it out that as well. So if I want to print it without storing much value, so I'll just write as system dot out dot println, and I will write as integer min value, sorry, min value space, I am adding this variable called my mint int value plus and integer max value plus my max int value, right? So this is how you can look at it. That is one way of writing. Another way of writing here is, I don't need to directly put a variable to store it, I might just directly call this thing. So if I just write as integer dot min value, and I can write it as, instead of variable, integer dot max value. Okay, here also it will work fine. Here I'm just instead of storing this integer min value or max value to a variable, I'm just directly printing it out, so it will also work pretty much fine. Okay, so similarly you can, this min value max value can be found for any primitive data type that we are seeing here. So give me let me give an example. Let's say byte is there, so by okay, I will just do this here directly in the system.out one. So let me change the statement. So byte, so I just need to do byte, min value will be same for others. So I just need to know for a byte data type what is the min and maximum range of value that I can look into, and can try into. Okay, so my byte value will be -127 to -128 to -127, right? That is the range. Similarly, if you want to do for float, let me change this from everywhere from byte to float. See, I'm putting capital F as a float because that's a wrapper class in this case. So it is my 1.4 e raised to -45, that is 1.4 into 10 raised to -45 to max value of 3.4 into 10 3.4, this value into 10 raised to 38. So that's a pretty much higher range of values in which you can deal with the float value. Another thing, uh, uh, So let's discuss this part as well, about why float is enough, right? So it already have a good number of higher value that I can store. So why do I need to, why the Java has considered double as a default floating variable, not the float? Okay, so let's discuss that for a minute. So I'm just saying the what is the range for this, and you can see that the range is almost 10x. That is, maximum value can go till 10 raised to power 308, and here it can go till 10 raised to power minus 324, right? And why double has considered as the default floating variable, so default data type for real values, is because Java consider that yes, we need a very precise values in multiple places. So for that we should have higher range of decimal places. And why to compromise on that and directly give double? Because here there are some values, quantity values, where you might get lot of decimal values till the end, and that is very much required for the precise precision value. To maintain the precision, double will be more suitable rather than float. So that's why by default, if you write any value with decimal numbers, it will consider as a double rather than a float value. Okay. Okay, so let's jump into another aspect of the Java, that is in this case called as overflow and underflow aspect in the Java. Okay, so let's look into it in much detailed way, like what do you mean by overflow and underflow. So it comes down from the fact that uh, let's say let me define some new variable here. So let's say var1. Now I have stored the my max int value, right? So my max int value is equal to is plus 1. So that means if you can see where I'm highlighting my cursor here, so this is a max value that integer can take for any integer variable, right? Now what if I add plus 1 to it? What will happen? Will it give me an error or will it not? And how it will store that value in var, because more than that it can't store that value in a var1. It is already telling me that. So what it will happen? So interestingly, what Java does here is that if I try to add a max int value, which is the highest value I can store in a particular integer variable, but if I add one more, it try to it try to go to a negative value in this case. So what it happen is, it is not giving me an error as of now, okay, but it is telling me that I will try to go back directly to the lowest value. And what is the lowest value in this case? Lowest value is 2 minus 2147483 right? So it will try to go like that. So if I add again, if I instead of 2, if I add 1 instead of add 2, it will go to minus 1 to it, and it will decrease by minus 1. So my full value, largest value, if I add something to it, it will trace back to its lowest value, and there it started adding the numbers. Okay, that's how the Java compilers try to deal with it. Okay, another interesting thing I want to show you with respect to this is, so um, so the max value is 2147483647, right? This is the max value that we can get, right? But if I add plus 1, that is instead of 7 I add 48, that means this value that I am writing directly right now is the same as this expression of my max int value plus 1. So how it will work? So when I write this explicitly, it is saying the integer number is too large. So what does it signify? It signifies that if you try to give a direct number, it will, the compiler will find it as an error, right? And it will directly show an error to us. But if I provide just a variable name, the compiler might not know what inside it, and just to avoid that error, it will try to trace back to its lowest value and try to give the answer like minus 2147483648. Okay, So that is one way of dealing with uh, the how Java compiler deal with the values which become overflow. The whole thing that we have seen just right now, this part, the highlighted part, okay, this condition is called as overflow. That means if I have a value and my variable can't store even one more value than that, okay, that is in this case even one value, it will give me an overflow. Okay, so if you try to put a larger value than maximum value into an int, you will create something called as overflow situation. Okay, and what happen is to even we adding, we are getting a negative value. This situation are called as integer wraparounds. Okay, this condition is integer wraparounds. Similarly, let's look at the underflow aspect as well. So in underflow, if I has int var2 my min int value -1, if I do like this, okay, uh, that is, it's already a negative value, my int value, this, it will be basically this that I'm highlighting right now. If I add one more negative value, that is, it will ideally should go to, instead of 4.8 it should go 4.9, right, but it will give me the highest value in this case. Okay, and if I add do -2, it will just decrease the one more value from the highest value. So this is also integer wraparound, and what exactly is happening is, if you try to put a smaller value than a minimum value into int, you could cause an underflow to occur, and this is something that is, you can see the underflow aspect. Okay, so if you try to delete a number which is lesser than what you intended to give, and the variable can't store that thing, be it for integer, float, char, double, byte, right, it will try to give as a wraparound. But if you try to give the same thing as the value that we have seen here, right, it will directly provide an error. So let me show you that as well. So if I just write -2 1 4 7 4 8 3 6 4 7, right, so it's 4.8, this will work fine. But if I write 4.9, it will give me the integer number is too large or too small, kind of like this, and it will give me an error with respect to it. Okay, another interesting part, like while I'm writing the number, you would have observed that I'm uh, speaking out loud with respect to what I'm writing, specific number, because it's very confusing to write, right? So for that, Java has provided us a mechanism to read such big numbers. So how do we write that? So if I write my max int um, test, a new variable, I can use underscore 147,483 and 647. So here also, for it's for users to, if we have a big number and you can't read it, or you know it will get confused after a certain point of time, provide the easyability, to provide easy reading to the users. uh, they allowed us to use underscore in the variable names even for the numbers as well, so that we can read it, right? So we have to put this underscore, and you can see that it is referring to it just pretty much fine. Okay. Okay, so that being said, let's this is a, so we have talked about primitive types, little bit about primitive types. We have looked into the overflow underflow condition, and this condition will come for each and every variable, no exceptions to it. Okay, so anything you want to add more than one, it will give an directly, it will give either an error, or it will try to create the situation called inter wraparound that we have seen right now. That is, the positive will become negative and negative will become positive. Okay, so the maximum value, when it overflow, wrap around the minimum value and just continue processing without an error. Similarly, for underflow, the minimum value when it underflows, wrap around to the maximum value and continue processing. This is not usually the behavior you actually really want, and as a developer, you have to be aware that this can happen to you, to your programming as well. And for that, you have to choose appropriate data type. Okay. Uh, Appropriate data type. So let's discuss about it. So we have seen that if I try to add 8 in this case, that is a one more thing using number 2 dash. So is there a way to solve this thing? So your answer is yes. After int also there's another data type in which you can store much higher value. Okay, so let's look into it. It's called as long value. Okay, it's long, my long value equal to 100. If I just write like this, sorry, if I write like this, it will give me my long value equal to 100. But in reality, my long value is actually stored it as a int value. Why? Because I'm not I have to, when I'm using long or any other variable apart from int and double, I have to specify that which data type it should belongs to. Because for the whole numbers, we have already have 4 different data types. Okay, like byte, short, int, and long, right? And int is a default type, so you have to tell it it's a long value. I have to uh, tell it explicitly. So what do I mean by it is, so it is an int. So let's try it out. Okay, so someone asked that, okay, what if we write the bigger number in this case, whether it will still whether it's still an int or whether it will work it out. So 147483 and 648. Okay, so even though the value is long here, it still can't store this value. Okay, it has a higher range. I will first tell you the higher range, and again I will come back to this example. So to know the range of the long value, and since it is this value is considered as int, that's why it's giving an error, because integer number is too large even though we have used the long variable. So if for that I will just write system.out.print, and uh, let's do like this, long dot min value plus 2. So I'm just providing the range of long max and min values. Okay, so this is the value that we are getting. That is a pretty big very high number than this, and obviously it should accommodate the number that we're trying to put it here, but because the number it is considering as int, it is not, we are not, we have to make it explicit that it is a long number. To do that, we, the only thing that we have to do is we have to tell that it is a L. If you write L, it will consider as a long value and it will store it. So for example, if I write 24, I just don't change anything much. I just add 2 more numbers, that is become a much bigger number that it can be stored as int. It will work pretty much fine in long value as well. Okay, uh, so this is one aspect of long. Similarly even for float, right? So if I write float, my float value is equal to 10.689, we might think it's a float, but actually it is a double value, because by default double is the for any number with a decimal value, it will consider the double value. Okay, so it is saying that incomplete possible lossy conversion from float to double. Okay, it's a double. So what you have to do, if you want to use float explicitly, you have to write f in this case, and it will work pretty much fine to it. Okay, so that is one aspect into it, um, about primitive data types, that you have for integers, for much larger numbers you have long values, but for that you have to make it explicit by putting L after the end. For float, even though it is much shorter range than double, still you have to make it explicit that if you're using float, you have to put f in the end. Okay, so that is something, few things you can try it out. The same way of min and max value that you have found for integer and all, you can try it for all the primitive data types. Okay, now that one thing that we have seen earlier, in just a slide for that. So when you will get an overflow, when you will get an error, so in an integer wraparound event, either an overflow and underflow can occur when you are using an expression variable, and that is not a simple literal value. That means, because in this case Let me show you. Yeah, that is I am trying to in int var equal to mint my mint int value minus 1. In this case I am trying to reduce my lower value to much more lower, that is I am creating a situation of underflow, but here I am not explicitly specifying that number, I am just specifying the variable name for my int value, right? So whenever I'm using an expression, this my int value minus 1 is my min int value minus 1 is an expression. At that point of time it will create a situation of underflow. Okay, the Java, but uh, if it is a literal value it will give you an error. Okay, so the Java compiler doesn't attempt to evaluate the expression to determine its value, so it doesn't give you an error, otherwise it will give you an error. So here are two example. So in this example int max value plus 1, here uh, in this the first line the int will compile this or not, integer max value plus 1, it will create it will not create a it will create a overflow condition. Okay, here also since you're putting this brackets into this case, here it will try to create a overflow condition because it's an expression that's try to evaluate. Okay, but if you assign numeric literal value that we have seen earlier, it will directly give you an error. Okay. Okay, so last topic of this session is the typecasting that we have to do. So typecasting or casting means treat or convert a number from one type to another. Okay, so let's look at into some of its example here to get some idea with respect to it. So let's say, okay, let me take um, yes, uh, let me take some short values or some, yeah, let me take some short values. So short, first short equal to 2 or 1, and second short equal to 2. Okay, if I do like this it will provide me pretty much perfectly fine. Okay, um, and okay, this short is there, and then if I want to keep byte values, so let's say by byte um, my total first short divided by second short, and I just do a simple basic division. Okay, so here what is actually happening here is, okay, I did one mistake also. So in first short dot s I'm just providing one value rather than one s or second s value. Okay, so that's my bad. But here another important problem is happening, is the error is coming in incompatible type. I want to store the answer in byte, that is my total, but it's giving me error as possible lossy conversion from int to byte. Okay, so it is considering them as int even though I have written a short because I haven't specified that it's a short value, so that is my mistake. But even if you somehow make it short, that's not a problem. But the second problem that is more important I want to highlight here is that the inversion conversion from int to byte is not happening. So how do we deal with it? To deal with it we do casting. So in this case if I just write byte in this part, enter this, it will work pretty much fine. So 1 divided by 2 is 0.5, but since we are dealing with the whole number here, no decimal value, so it will consider as a 0. 0.5, not 0.5, it will consider as a 0 in this case. Okay, uh, that is, that being said, let's look at some other values. So let's say int my var 1 is equal to 10, oh sorry, it's 100. Float my var 2 is equal to 200 f, because I have to make it float, and float sorry, int my var 3, I'm defining it, so my var 3 I'm taking as flow, my var2 divided by my var1. Okay, this is an issue is coming, that is I'm trying to store in the float this value, but it's still not coming. Okay, so for to solve this, because I have a float and I want to convert that into int, so I have to make it explicitly that I want int value as an int answer. So I will get the value as 200. Now let's do something different. Let's say I have float my var4. Okay, and if I wanted my var4 equal to my var2, which is a float variable, and divided by my var1, it will work pretty much fine. So what is actually happening here? Here, when my var was float and my var1 was int and my var3 was int, it is giving me a conversion problem. But the moment my var4 is a float, it is working pretty fine. So what exactly happening here is it converting by default, considering that since my whatever value in my numerator is, I will consider that as a higher precedence value. Okay, so it is considering that whatever value I am storing in my var2, that is float in this case, so I will also inherently convert my var1 int into the float value. So once I float it, so value I'm getting as because any number you're trying to divide in mathematically also, right? Like 3.5 into 1, it will give you 3.5 as the answer. So it will, the value will still remain within the realm of a float value. So decimal value in mathematics, same concept we are arriving here at. And since my value is my var4 is float, the conversion is simple and it is working out. But if I put at double my var5, and if I just do like my var1, my var2 divided by my var1, so here we have three different value. My var1 is int, my var2 is float, and my var5 is double. It is still working out. So what exactly is playing out here, right? That is something we have to look at. So what in this case it is not it is working, because the reason is the moment you perform this expression, what exactly happening is you're getting a real value in this case, right? That is 2.0, and by default 2.0 is a, a double value. Okay, to make it float, if I want to, if I try to add, if I make it explicit as a float in this case of type conversion, still it's working. So but this is something I need to check out why it is working. Ideally it should not work in editor, it should not work. Here it's working because I'm making explicit conversion, but I'm still getting like this, so I need to check that. So my first assumption will be that like just like Java, so the primitive data type that we have seen here, right? So what sometimes happens is, if a value is shorter than some value, so like one example we see that int can be converted to float directly. So similarly float can also be converted to double directly, because numbers, the values ranges are pretty much high, right? So that might be one of the reasons about why it is working like this. Okay, uh, another thing that we can try it out apart from this in my float value is let's say another thing that we can try, because here it's working, right? I want to show you a value where it will not work. So float my float value, and let's think of an example. Okay, so my float value is equal to 5f divided by 3.0. So here the problem is coming, because the 5f is float but 3.0 is a double value. Okay, so here it is giving me a problem, but if I just write it as float and provided the parenthesis, it will work pretty much fine to it, right? So that is one thing about the typecasting and all that. Obviously you can try it out with multiple things. For example, this is, we just talked about int and float, but char, let's take char. So let's say my char is equal to d. It will work, since character is only one letter, it will work pretty much fine, right? But there's another way to write the same thing, that is called Unicode. So if I write, or before that, let me show another thing. So if I write dd, it will give me an error because character can take only one character at a time, so this is not allowed. Apart from this, for d, if I want to use present d in some other way, that is Unicode, if I write U0044, it will work as well, says fine, Unicode. So what actually is happening here? So for in a computer, um, what exactly is there is something called as Unicode. Every character is converted to a number. Okay, so Java Unicode. Let me open that. So every character has been encoded to a certain number value. Okay, um, and why it's not coming here? Okay, let me show for Unicode system here. Okay, so this something called ASCII value. There are multiple Unicode standards are there. So multiple standards are there apart from Unicode. Okay, so what it tried to do is it tried to provide certain values to the characters it's having. That means in this case, I have Unicode value for D, right? But if I want to have for, let's say this is question mark, right? So that for that I might have uh, a Unicode call. Let's find it out first and then we can try it out. So let's, the Unicode table, I should search Unicode table. Okay, so for each value, each character, these are called multiple characters are there in this. Yes, you can see for that different values are there. I'm looking for question mark in this case. So it is Unicode number is 003F, right? So if I try to, instead of defining my char2 as, I can define like this. Oh, sorry. And my bad, char, my char2, or I can use a Unicode character in this case, char uh, my char3 is equal to slash, you have to put if I am using the Unicode value, and if I do this, still if you have seen, this is a Unicode value and it's giving me perfect answer for this question mark as well. Similarly, its value is 63, that is for decimal value. So if I just write like 63 and if I write like char value of my decimal char, it will also give me question mark. So in three different ways you can define a character. One more experiment I want you to try, because I just thought of, is if I just write my char 5 is equal to double quotes and this, will it work? It will not work, because double quotes has been, as earlier I have said, has been specified directly for question mark. So double quotes specified for a string, and single quotes are defined for a character. So if you write like this, it will give you error. It might work okay in other programming language like Python, but in this it's a strict no. Okay, uh, that being said, we are almost end in the session. I just want to show you one more last thing before going out, ending this session, is something called abbreviated operators. What do I mean by it? So let's write it out. So we have seen as of now primitive types, underflow, overflows, typecasting and all, right? So I'll just, you just give another, with respect to operator, I just trying to show something. So if I write int result equal to 1, and if I write result plus plus 1, right? And I will just print it out, system.out.print result. So I will guess just this value 2, right? So is there any other way to do it? So let's write it this down to another way. I can just do plus plus, it will work pretty much fine either. Or, but plus plus is already a operator, plus plus minus minus. Okay, we'll talk about it as we go much more detail in this thing. As we're writing the code, we'll talk about it. But another way of writing this result equal to result plus 1, so as result plus equal to 1. So what exactly happening, we're trying to abbreviate this whole equal to result plus as plus equal to 1. So that is what we are doing, and if we do this again, the result will come same, right? So this is one thing I want to show. This is called abbreviated operators. So I will just write it as abbreviated operators, and we use it often in the programming. So I just want to highlight this aspect because we might use this, I might use it by default because it shares me a line of code, and you should know the interpretation of this. Okay, another way of let me take another example to show you something else. So let's say double results, and I will say 10, let's assume, and result I'm keeping as, instead of plus, I can do for any operators, plus minus in multiplication into, and I will just write 5.5, and if I do this, 55.5 is the answer that I will get. Okay, so what exactly happening here? So it will return as result equal to result into 5.5 into 5.5. That's how this abbreviation of the expression we have done it. Okay, so that is this is one way of writing this thing. Okay, you can try multiple things over a period of time, try it out. You will get you can try out multiple aspects, multiple let's say uh, about reading about it, you get to know different ways to write a certain program and all, right? So try this thing out. I will encourage you to try it out. The one, if you are very new to Java and you want to just explore few things, this is a pretty much good starting point in writing in Jshell, right? This is I done for divide, and yeah, so yeah, that's it. So what we have covered here from the beginning, if we start to, we have talked about Jshell. We have done all the coding as of now in Jshell, and we have seen how it is much interactive to you, that even after writing every a statement, you will get an immediate output out of it, right? So that is a very good feedback mechanism from the Java to tell you that okay, why this line is correct, why it's not. You get to know multiple errors, and you will get comfortable with while doing Java. And I will encourage you, once you install Java in your system, you start trying out multiple stuff. Even you can write, if you want to write multi-line of code, you can use code blocks as shown here with the help of curly braces. And then we have look about variable, expression, statement, lower camel case, how you write the variable names, right? Multiple expressions, the different kind of primitive data types. uh, we have seen multiple overflow underflow conditions, right? Min max, well, the wrappers, with wrappers we have seen that how we can know that what is the min value, max value. You can try it out, you can search in net also. So this is a very good starting point for you to learn Java. Play with it, play with it, enjoy it, learn from it. You will get much comfortable as you go ahead more and more dealing with it. And once you get comfortable, like yeah, I can try it out, you can start doing writing, write your Java code in IDE as well. Okay, so that's the end of the session in this case. So today we have covered a lot of things in this aspect, but at the end of the day, what you have, irrespective of whatever the theory that you will see in theory lecture or from my side, it will be useless unless you try it out. And programming language, any programming language, be it Java or any programming language, it is something that has to be learned by its own. Like you have to do coding practice for sure. Okay, so start doing it, try it out. Multiple sources are there, just try tutorial in Java as well, you will get to know multiple aspect to it, right? So you will get multiple questions, and I will also provide multiple programming questions as we go ahead in the new sessions as well, right? So yeah, at the end, keep practicing it, keep start doing it. As we go ahead, we'll look into some interesting concept in Java and how it is related to real world and why it has been used so extensively in the programming languages and the softwares and all that we have built and we are using, right? Why it is so significant. We will try to get it more appreciate the language as you go ahead along with the course. Okay, so with that being said, uh, that's the end of the session from my side. Thank you everyone to watching this, and I'm sorry for the first recording session part where I have, because of some issue, I was not able to record it, but this time I make sure that this will be um, a much better experience for you people. Okay, and if you have any question with respect to interaction session 1 or 2, please reach out to me in the next sessions that I'm having on every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. So thank you everyone for watching this.